Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to Backchat. Welcome to Yoga Berry, your yoga for scoliosis community. And I can see lots of you were waiting already because you know that I've got a very special guest on today. If you are new to this channel, my name is Christine Jareggi-Berry and I'm a yoga teacher. I specialize in yoga for scoliosis. And this is what we do on this channel here. We chat about yoga, we chat about all things scoliosis, of course. So you will find plenty of actual practice videos on here. And then my weekly back chat where I've got interview guests, I've got people who've got something to say, to contribute, obviously, to anyone who suffers from scoliosis and who's obviously looking for solutions. So welcome everyone. If you are here live, come and say hello. Tell us where you are from. I'm going to bring Dr. Loren Fishman on in a moment, and feel free to ask your questions. I know that there will be lots of you here who've got specific questions, so I will do my very, very best to make sure that he gets to read all of them, of course. But yeah, so I think Dr. Fishman doesn't need a huge introduction. I think everyone probably is already familiar with him on this channel as we talk about Loren all the time, of course. But those of you who don't know, he is a medical doctor. He's got a clinic in Manhattan. He is a professor at Columbia Medical School as well. He's written lots of papers on scoliosis, on treating conditions with yoga. So not just scoliosis, but we've got osteoporosis, sciatica, all kinds of other things. I'm sure he will tell us. But yes, let's bring him on. Let's come and say hello. So thank you so much, Loren, for making the time.
Thank you, Christina. I love your introduction. It's so happy, it's upbeat. The little bubbles, I like them.
Yeah, and I think, even if we are kind of dealing with conditions, with medical conditions, and we've got all these things going on in our bodies, it's important to keep it light and to bring some joy and hope out in the world. That's that's what I believe in, really. So thank you so much for taking the time, of course. So Loren, obviously you were here on this very show, even though different technology back then, I think. I think it was 3 years ago now. So it's pre first lockdown. So different times, it seems.
Indeed.
But back then you told us all about your research, obviously it was mainly about side plank then, and just putting it into context for people, and a couple of other yoga poses to help those with scoliosis and hopefully, of course, reduce scoliosis curvatures. So do you want to give us a little bit of an update of maybe where things have been going?
Yeah, well, first I'll go back a little and tell you what we did, what I believe we did then is well, by now I've published 3 different studies and a 4th one is sent out to a publisher. We don't know what they're going to say yet, about using yoga for scoliosis. And I have a very simple theory that it's hard to believe that not that many people have come across it. I'm going to use my, this is actually a microphone that I use for dictating notes and things like that. But you could look at it as though it were an antenna out in a field when you're driving, hither and thither. And it's analogous to our spine. And there are cables then pulling down on each side symmetrically. And if they're symmetrical, then the tower will be vertical. But if one side is pulling more than the other, well, then the tower will naturally bend down to that side. So now the analogy with scoliosis is obvious. So then this is the stronger side, the side to which the spine bends, the concave side. And the convex side is the weaker side. The muscles over here are being pulled because they all just pull down. There ain't no muscles that pull up. So this is what's happening. So now all we do in the yoga is we strengthen the weak side. We have people do the side plank. So they're, I can't do that. They're lying down. And this is the side we strengthen. Their curves are always like that. We have them on the convex side of their curve. And these muscles contract so that little by little, these muscles draw the spine back to straight. And to make the analogy with the tower, if it's bent like this, these muscles little by little pull up as though these cables are going to be pulling just as strongly as these cables to match their intensity. And then it comes up to vertical. And this simple principle we've used in the lumbar spine, where we use the side plank, and in the thoracic spine, where we use something called the floating side plank, which I must say was introduced to us by Christine. She made up that term, and now I use it all the time. And a couple of other poses that we use up here in the thoracic spine. Now, we're not like a radio antenna in that we have ribs, and our ribs splay out. If it's curved this way, our ribs will splay out like the spokes of a wheel, like an Asian fan, and they take up space and they press out of their way the muscles and the soft tissue and the skin, and then they migrate back into the space that they've created with this splaying, so that you end up with a lump or a curvature, a kind of a different names for it. The worst name is a hump. That people don't like that one at all. But a bump, a bevelment, an enlargement on the convex side. Mountain, yes, a hillock. And for various reasons, people have often thought that side is the stronger side. Now, nothing could be further from the truth. That's the weak side. The strong side is the one that's drawn down, the hollow side where the muscles have contracted. That's what does it. So for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, people have considered this the side to work on, that this is the strong side, but it's not. It's the weak side. And this is the strong side. And so what we need to do is to equal the intensity of the pull here with what goes on this side. It's just as simple as that. It's just people have confused themselves any amount, and it's been a very difficult subject without what I consider a very simple, almost self-evident realization. So we've used this. We've used this with great success with not everybody, but just about everybody. I would say 87% of the people we try this on, it works. And by works, I mean an X-ray done on day 1 has a bigger curve than an X-ray done at the end of month 5. And then we'll do it again at the end of month 10, and we'll see. And that's what we've been doing. Now, sorry, you drew breath as though you were about to speak. So go ahead.
Yes, there were a couple of things coming up for me. So first of all, when you said, you used that nice image of the antenna basically, and the muscles kind of pulling the spine over into one direction, kind of pulling it down. So you want to pull it down on the other side to make it straight. Would that be more, so I'm just wondering, would that be more of an example of a functional scoliosis that is maybe caused by the muscles doing exactly that?
Yes. Well, there is a name that doctors use to disguise their ignorance, our ignorance. They call it idiopathic, which means whatever is causing this is just in you. It's not a general principle. We don't know what it is. And they kind of blame you for it. It's idiopathic. You did it. And this is adolescent idiopathic scoliosis, which, by the way, since the curing of polio and the great control of tuberculosis, is the chief cause of scoliosis. 90% of scoliosis is this adolescent idiopathic scoliosis. And the rest, due to cerebral palsy or other kinds of neurological or bony abnormalities, or of course terrible accidents, those we don't really treat them in any systematic way. It actually might be helpful for some of them, especially what I'm about to tell you. But so far, we have not approached that. We've just approached the 90%, which in the United States is probably about 10 million people that have it. 9 out of 10 of them are young girls. That's the way it is. And there's something to say about that if anybody asks a question. But otherwise, let me move on, because I really want to talk a little today about a study that I just got approved. It was very hard to get it approved. I mean, I worked, see these fingers worn down to the nubbin. It was much more than 100 hours to get it approved by the government, by the FDA. They're very cautious. They're so proud of themselves for having detected errors in the past, the thalidomide scandal, the terrible things that happened with that. The FDA was cautious enough to avoid that in our country, but not elsewhere, unfortunately. So they're buoyed up, fire in their belly about how wonderful they are and how caution pays off. And so it was really hard to do. So what's the study? The study is using the yoga. I'll do it again. You like it, I'll do it again. Yes, we use the yoga to strengthen the weak side here, which little by little will bring the spine up, but also to weaken the strong side.
Okay.
So that it will go faster. Normally, our people get better at the rate somewhere between 2.5 and 5% a month, which means that in 10 months, they'll get somewhere between 25 and 50% better. Often it's closer to 25, but occasionally it gets up to 50. And that's good. But it would be nice if we could do it more quickly and more definitively.
So my question obviously is going to be how are you weakening muscles? How are you going to do that? Yeah.
Well, we're using botulinum toxin. We're using what they use, what rich ladies use on their foreheads to give themselves a little shot, or they have their dermatologist give them a little shot, and it takes the wrinkles away because it inactivates a muscle. It doesn't permanently weaken it, but it weakens it for some time. It's just not as activated.
And so it's relaxing the muscles? Is that
relaxing the muscle is a very nice way to put it. And so by relaxing the muscles that are pulling down and strengthening the muscles that are straightening things, we end up with, fabulous gains so far. We've done it now on 5 people that we've been able to reliably check out on later. And they're all young people. And they all had lumbar curves. We're only doing it in the lumbar spine, but to everyone's surprise, it actually improves curves way up in the thoracic spine too. By a mechanism I think I understand, but I'm not going to say it because I have no proof of it. But at any rate, these people are getting the smallest improvement was 9 degrees in 3 weeks. And the biggest improvement was 16 degrees in the same 3 weeks. So now, of course, we're not done at the end of 3 weeks. We're following them much further. And we followed 2 of them already, but I haven't verified the results yet because I haven't got the actual scans to look at them. These are all reported. These people, even though I'm in New York, one of these people is in Florida, one is in Wisconsin, which is about 1,000 miles to the west of us, and 3 of them are in Canada, which is about 500 miles to the north of us. There are none yet from New York City. It's just a curiousness. The way the chips fall, but that's what's happened so far. Now, here's a question. Does this apply to those of us that have had spinal fusions and rod placement surgery on a portion of the spine? No, it does not, because your spines are held fast and they're not going to move. You don't want them to move. If they move, they're going to create what's called a pseudo-arthrosis, a joint that isn't really a joint. As you probably know, a joint is a complex and very well-designed structure with cartilage on both sides of the bones that constitute the joint, a capsule around it, wonderful cells inside that secrete fluid that keep it moist and lubricated for 100 years. Your elbow doesn't squeak, and that's why. Now, a pseudoarthrosis is where 2 bones or parts of bones are next to each other and moving a little bit without the capsule, without the cartilage, without the fluid. And it can be very painful. And there's nothing for it except to have another surgery where they try to fuse the bones together so they don't move. So no, it does not apply to people that have had spinal fusion in the place where they had the fusion. Now, there are people that have had fusions way up here in the cervical spine and the upper thoracic spine. For them, a surgery down here in the lumbar spine was never done, and our methods would be appropriate down here. You couldn't use enough work. There's already been a fusion.
So wouldn't that mess with the fusion at the top if you kind of create a different type of balance to the bottom?
No, I don't think so. I mean, in the course of your normal life, you do wiggle and waggle and twist and turn and tilt and move backward. You do all kinds of things in the course of a normal life, which are probably more endangering because they're more dramatic and more sudden than what you do with the yoga and the botulinum toxin. So I think, with pretty good confidence that wouldn't be harmful for a very high fusion. However, most of the time the fusions are down here. So then you're out of luck as far as this procedure goes.
Yeah.
If you've had a fusion and you have a lot of pain, you should go back to your orthopedic surgeon and ask him or her why. It's not supposed to be that way. I've been there more than 100 times in the actual surgery, in the operating room and all this. We, amongst others, invented a technique where you could stimulate children in their heels and pick up signals from their brain to be sure that nothing untoward is happening across the surgical field. And it worked beautifully. And these people, none of them, not one, had much pain afterwards, even the next day. So, they had a little incisional pain, but that was it. So I don't think the pain is a normal consequence of it. And you might refer
need
there.
to check. Yeah. So Laura is asking if the method works for grown-up people. She's 66. Is it worth it, or it won't do any change in her spine?
If you are a case of either adolescent idiopathic scoliosis that just was never treated then, or if you are a case of what they call degenerative scoliosis, where there are no actual bony changes, wait, I've got one here. This is a giraffe vertebra, I think. It's quite large. This giraffe is looking this way. Okay, here's the very back, the part of the spine that gives the whole structure its name, the spine of the vertebra. And here's the vertebral body. If you see the vertebral body here, it's kind of level. But now if this person, the 66-year-old, has a normal spine, but just the vertebrae are curved, but the vertebrae all look like this, yes, it will work. If, on the other hand, the vertebrae has been broken or something has happened and it's tilted or otherwise deranged and misshapen, then I'm not sure it will work as well. It will probably work, but maybe not as well because there's a natural inclination to one side or the other. But yes, it would work. We have not tried it on anybody over the age of 17 yet.
Okay.
Oh, yes, we did. We did one boy of 27, and it worked very nicely with him. He was not in our study, but we did it. We did it because his mother and father wanted us to do it. And we did it, though he's not in our study.
And is it it's just lumbar curves at the moment for this new study?
Yes, and the reason is that it's more dangerous to do in the thoracic spine. We will do it there, but we haven't yet, because if the needle goes a little too deeply, it goes into the lungs, which is not fun.
That doesn't sound good. No,
doesn't sound good. So we don't do it. There's one. It's a Danish study where somebody got very sick as a consequence of that, and I don't think that's the right way to start. I mean, one of the things I'm trying to bring out here is that what is the cause of the scoliosis, this idiopathic scoliosis without cause? It's got a cause. What is the cause? We don't know it. And what
we don't know. Yeah.
Results. What the results what I've done so far show rather strongly is that it's muscular imbalance. That's what it is. And that's something we can treat. That's something we can do something about with yoga, with botulinum toxin. And of course, anyone who wants to come into this study, it's free, of course. You get the botulinum toxin, you get the yoga lesson, you get to meet me to look at you for the better part of an hour, and you get free x-rays too. And there are new x-ray devices, which are not so new anymore, called an EOS, EOS. And the EOS x-ray is about 1/9 the radiation of the old ones. So with our study, you get 3 free x-rays, which altogether add up to 1/3 of one x-ray in terms of radiation. So these are good things.
I'm reading here Debbie's question, and there is a question afterwards, but she's saying, I noticed myself a total hip on one side. Many of my students, women over 50 with bone loss, muscle loss, and functional
have functional
scoliosis.
scoliosis. Yeah, well, functional scoliosis, you see, I'm going to tell you something, the surgeons will hate me, but if you say something real, someone's going to hate you no matter what you say. So I might as well say it. Scoliosis has been dominated by surgery for hundreds of years because it's the only thing that we were sure of that works. So basically what you did, if you found out that your daughter had scoliosis, was you got x-rays every year or so to see if she were ready for surgery, if she ever really needed surgery. Then they will give you a brace saying, oh, this may make the curve progress less quickly. It may slow it down, period. And the question was always, does she need surgery yet or not? The yet is in there because nothing else has been shown to work. So that's the plight of the parent is, I hope she doesn't get even close to surgery, because if she gets close and doesn't get there, oh, that's the worst scenario. Then nobody can do anything for her. If she gets a little worse, they'll do surgery and that will be okay. That will be better. They're all worried their daughter is going to grow up maimed and mutilated and not be able to live a normal life. The sons do, but there aren't that many of the sons. So that the word functional scoliosis kind of means, oh, they don't need anything. It's just what they do. It's just a sort of an artifact of their lives. It's a function, that's all, not a structure. That's the opposition. And I say, let us break free of that model. Now this is an alternative. It's innocuous. You can do it with people with a 6-degree curve. You can do it with anybody. And it doesn't have any repercussions in their lives. It's not expensive. It's not dangerous. You can do it in a minute or two at home. It's not like a great big elaborate thingamajig. It's a little pose or 2 or 3 that you do. So I think it can free us from this domination by surgery.
By surgeons, by surgery. Yeah. So what about? So you are basically saying, because coming back to what you said about the vertebrae, if they are, however, wedge shaped, which they can be obviously in extreme cases, that wouldn't be what you would suggest, isn't it? It's only if they are kind of a normal height.
Well, not quite. I mean, I have to say a couple of things, Christine. First, I've never tried it with someone who has a wedge, side-to-side wedge-shaped deformity. My guess is it would work. It might not work as well because the bones are already inclining the spine off to one side or the other. But I think it would tend to minimize the curve, which could be by virtue of gravity. I mean, if your spine, let's use this again. If you have a curved vertebra here and it's inclining your spine off there, gravity is going to be pulling down on this side of your spine every time you're walking around. So little by little, it will gain purchase on your spine and pull it down. So now if you make these muscles over here weaker, there will not be the same impetus to do that. If you strengthen the muscles on this side doing yoga, you might end up, like this, not completely straight, but you'd be a lot better off than you would be like that. So, I mean, that's a little hypothetical. I have not tried it on people with these curves yet, but I see no reason it wouldn't work somewhat on them. The vast majority.
Sorry to interrupt you.
You go ahead.
There's so many questions coming in right now, so I just want to make sure we do get to answer a few of them. So, do we need to do anything to break up calcification to allow more movement and development of strength on the weak side?
Well, first, from the 5 cases I've done so far, no. I mean, they're getting amazingly better very quickly. I mean, these are the kind of results you don't see anywhere but in surgery. I was kind of not blown away when I saw the first case, and then the second one blew me further away. So now I'm, over the moon, au de la. It's all over for me. And so I'm convinced that it really does work, and it really does seem to. And we're doing this study, to achieve statistical significance and more or less demonstrate it. But I don't know about this calcification. I mean, people talk about it, but if there were significant calcification, these people would not be improving like this. So that's the first thing to say. The second thing to say is, on the many, many, many x-rays that I have seen and analyzed, I don't see much calcification. I don't think that's the problem. You're worried about, tell me if this is what's on your mind. You get a curve and then somehow it gets crystallized. It ain't going to change no more. That's the way it is. And that sounds like calcification, but it isn't. It's just habit. the intransigent strength of the muscles on the strong side, the irrevocable weakness of those on the other side. And so you're stuck with it. But you're not stuck with it. With this
so
approach,
there's a lot of questions about, I think, people asking basically, is this going to be for me? I am 38. We've got someone else who's saying is in their 60s with painful scoliosis. What would be your answer be in terms of pain?
This is Charlotte Stone from New Jersey. I know her. She's a wonderful yoga teacher and a lovely person. And I salute you if you're the same Charlotte Stone, not Sharon.
Not Sharon Stone.
But yes, this would work. There's no reason to think it wouldn't work. I'll reiterate, I haven't yet tried it on anyone in their 60s. I have seen a young boy from Florida who was in terrible pain, a healthy young man of 17, tall and thin, playing basketball, about 6 feet tall. And I gave him the injection. His pain has gone. Now, that was only 2 weeks ago. So will it stay gone? I don't know. But he had 8 out of 10 pain, pretty big time pain. And it's gone because the pain comes from this asymmetry and the pressure of the muscles, either on themselves because they go into spasm, or on their counterparts on the opposite side because they're getting stretched to a painful point. So I think it would work, and I'm perfectly willing to do it on the lumbar spine of anybody.
Yeah. So it's still early days of the study, but you are looking for people, obviously, to participate.
Trying to recruit people for my study. I mean, it's not that hard yet, but may get hard. Now, how would this method work with rotation with a curvature? Would it be beneficial too? I don't know for sure. From my previous work with just using yoga for scoliosis, yes, because in my really pretty extreme experience, 47 years a doctor doing this, seen loads of patients, I have never seen anybody with a bulge in their back that doesn't have scoliosis. It's only scoliosis that causes it, except for rare, abnormalities that are present at birth. Pes cavus, there are a couple that will do it, but apart from very known and extremely rare causes, scoliosis is the only thing that does it. So curing the scoliosis generally cures it. I mean, it doesn't go 100% away, but it goes about 80% away. So you can't even see it. If you really look carefully, you can tell. Now, you might ask, well, how does that occur? How does that happen? The way I believe it happens, and there are several theories and none of them is proven and none of them is disproven, is that what I was telling you before, the ribs splay out. The curve is like that. The ribs splay out. First, like this, the ribs are parallel. Can you see that? Yeah. Like that. Now, when the spine curves, the ribs, wait, how do I do this? No. The spine curves that way, the ribs open up too. They're not together anymore, they're apart. And they take up more space, they spread everything out, and then they migrate backwards into the space that they've created. Now, why do they migrate backwards rather than forwards? That is probably the shape of the vertebral facets. The facet joints incline them to do it. And once they start, it's like a slippery slope. Once they start doing it, they simply continue. It's the way the muscles are designed too. The muscles pull you back. They pull the vertebra above back rather than pulling the vertebra below forward. That's the way they work. It's the way the good Lord designed us, probably so that we could stand erect. Otherwise, we'd be humped over like turtles all the time. So it makes sense in the course of evolution. That seems to be what happens. And when you cure the scoliosis, the tendency to do that is absent, is removed. Now, does it happen? I cannot guarantee that happens in every time because you can't look at x-rays. There is a way they do x-rays from above to look at the curvature. But I mean, it's more elaborate than I want to put people through on a daily basis. How many Botox treatments are required? So far as we know, 1. To be in the study, it's 1 visit. You come to our offices, we teach you the yoga, we give you the injection. They're very low dose of botulinum toxin too. if this study is successful, there will be people who are going to try giving 2-3 times as much. I mean, I have routinely given my patients 3 times this much. Sometimes, honest to God, 6 times this much with no side effects, even though I've done it literally more than 1,000 times.
And then it's over 5 months, you said? How long do they?
Well, yes, over 3 months. The study is over in 3 months.
3 months.
And you stop, but this is a good question. How many Botox treatments? 1 in the study. When you stop the Botox, will the spine go back to the way it was? It's a question we can't answer yet. It may be that you will require more botulinum toxin treatments until the yoga has made the other side strong enough so you no longer need to weaken that first side. Now, there's something very important to say here that's a little bit technical. I'll do my best with it. The way muscles work is there's actin and myosin. And these 2 types of fibers it's like a jack on a car. Click, 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 and the car goes up, up, up. Well, there are little calcium connections between the actin and the myosin, and they go click, click, click much more quickly than, millions of times, and bring the muscle together. That's muscle contraction. That's how a muscle contracts, with this click, click, clicking. Now, if you're looking at muscles that have been stretched a lot, which side are they stretched on? The convex side over here, they're stretched. The actin and the myosin are not really in contact with each other very much. There are not that many clicks that they can make. So they're weakened. You could say functionally weakened quite a bit. If you give the botulinum toxin on this side and they come up further like this, then instead of being just like this, there are a lot of clicks already. So they have greater power in pulling your muscle, pulling your spine further up. So it's not clear to me how permanent this is. Were you to need botulinum toxin injections once a year for the rest of your life, it would probably be worth it. Are you likely to need them? I do not think so. I think once you come close to vertical, the muscular symmetry is going to take over, and you're not going to have a curve anymore. It's not going to come back. But I cannot prove that yet. It's more or less an intuition on my part. I cannot say. Can I say that it will take you out of the surgical range and bring you back into a range where, look at her, she's got a little bit of a curve in her back? Yes. I think it will I've seen it do that, so I can say it with confidence.
Yeah.
How about the thoracic candidate instead of the botulinum toxin, given myofascial release along the tight areas alongside yoga? Well, I haven't tried that. Myofascial release probably would be of some value there. And I can't say anything against it. I mean, I'd love to see somebody do it in a systematic way with an X-ray before and an X-ray after. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, this is what I enjoy about these conversations, and I know you have critics, as you said before. Obviously, whenever you have something to say, people will have something to say against this as well. But I love how you are a scientist, effectively, right? You're curious and you want to prove what you're suggesting. You're not just saying this is what it is, this is what you should do, but you always say, no, I want to prove it, and I want to make sure that obviously there is some substance behind it as well.
By the way, Laurel, it's a good question. Are you the Laurel Thomas from New Jersey? I think I know you too. Okay, for those of us who are doing the side planks, any suggestion for pain that this can cause the shoulder and neck? Yes. Hold on a minute. I'm going to do an improbable thing. I'm going to take my shoes off and turn around and show you. Okay. So I'm moving around in my office here, turning around.
Also, if you want me to do something, feel free. I feel bad that I always make you.
I'm the guinea pig. I don't mind. I mean, I think
yoga.
Since they asked me the question, I'll try to give the answer. Yes. If you're doing a side plank, one of the things people do wrong often is they let their head come down like that, and then you strain the neck. Let your head be a direct extension of your spine, just straight up, whoop, like that, so that your first vertebra is sort of like a circle. The second vertebra has like a finger in it that's pointing straight up. It's called the odontoid process. Somebody thought it looked like a tooth. And it points straight up. And where it points is to the fontanelles, the part of your cranium that was soft when you were a baby. Let your spine point to that spot. Adjust your head so you're right in the middle. And if you're right in the middle, I think some of your pain will go away. Another trick is, I'll show you this one again. People come up in the pose and they let their shoulder come down like this, and that can hurt your neck. Let your shoulder come up like this. See the difference? Down, up. Don't look at my hips. Look up here at my shoulder.
Yeah.
Up like this it seems harder, but it's actually much better for you.
Mm-hmm. What about using the chair, having the hand on a chair?
Yes, that's another thing you can do. I can't use that chair. I'll end up too close, but wait, I'll bring over a doctor's stool. If you wanted to, I'll move it up like this. If you wanted to and you're in trouble, you can hold on to this to bring your upper shoulder against the wall. It still works very well, and it may reduce some of the pain in your neck. So those are 3 suggestions.
Great. Thank you. So Kate is asking, how do we volunteer for the study?
Oh gosh, I'm so glad you asked. I forgot to say that. It's you call us. Here's our phone number if you're able to use the phone to get to us. It's 212-472-0077.
And I can put that obviously in the description of the video afterwards. Yeah.
Or you can write to Scoliosis at sciatica.org. That's scoliosis. You know how to spell that.
Yeah, I put it in the chat. So scoliosis at sciatica.org.
.org. O-R-G. So that's the way, and we're happy to have you in it. As I say, it's totally free.
Let me just bring
and you're welcome. If you wanted to, you could come back for another visit in 3 weeks and another visit in 3 months, also free, totally free. If you don't want to, you don't, like if you come from far away and you don't want to come back, we can do it by Zoom. You know, we want to study this. We want to see if we can.
Except for the botox, you can't do via Zoom, can you?
That's why they have to come in for one visit, right? Lawyers can give injunctions over the phone. Doctors cannot give injections over the phone.
No.
Not yet.
Wait
till
yet.
Meta comes in.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Debbie. She's saying you are both amazing. I love all this raised awareness around this topic. Thank you,
Debbie. I think I know you too. Hello, Debbie. I think you did Debbie. I don't know.
So we've talked about rotation already a little bit. Laura is also asking, must they be at a certain Risser level? I think that's a good question.
Well, yeah, I hope everybody knows what a Risser level is. A Risser level is a nice way. Dr. Risser figured out a way of figuring out with pretty good reliability whether your bones have stopped growing. And they look at the calcification along the iliac crests. Is it just starting up? Is it starting to curve? Is it coming in towards the sacrum? Is it complete? That would be 5. 0, not at all. 5 is when it comes all the way around. No, we would take people at any Risser level. Now, I should tell you, our grant and everything we're doing is only for people. You can get in the grant only if you're between 14 years of age and 18 years of age. It's for adolescent idiopathic scoliosis. Now, we are willing to do the botulinum toxin for anybody at any age. I mean, provided, we check them out and it's appropriate. We don't have any strictures about not doing it. But to be in the study, you have to be between 14 and 18 years of age. And those people usually are Risser 3 or 4 or 5.
Right. Okay. So for anyone older, they can still come and see you, of course.
They're certainly welcome to see me. And if the just normal conditions obtain, they are appropriate for this. There are no special instructions for this. You don't need anything weird.
Yeah. So obviously Charlotte Stone is the one who you were thinking of. So she's saying thank you for the shout out.
For my the harm reduction of avoiding lung puncture, the alternatives come to mind. Yes. And myofascial release is certainly worth a try on the strong side. Now, in the thoracic spine, that would be the intercostal muscles, the muscles between the ribs, would be the latissimus dorsi. It would be the paraspinal muscles right along the inch or two to the right and left of the spine.
Mm-hmm. How to activate the weakened muscle in a thoracic spine when I do strengthening exercises. I don't really feel
that
that
they're
they're
working.
working.
Yeah. All right, here I go again. I'll show you what I consider the best one that was named by Christine Uregaberry. You named this, Christine. And
The floating plank, yes.
the floating plank. I used to call it the flying plank, but that's not as yogic a word as float. So this one, I'll show you how to do this one. Take a chair. I am at pains here to move a chair there. And this one was suggested to me by a bodybuilder.
Okay.
He was doing the other exercises we do, and he said, these aren't strong enough. They're not good enough. And he suggested this, and we got an x-ray before and after. And my goodness, it was really very potent. So now we do it with everybody. You can see me, but you can't see the chair. Can you? Can you see the chair?
We can see the chair. We will probably see when you have your legs on there.
I'm just going to put it back here now. What you do is, remember we talked about the plank? This is the floating plank. So here I am. It's my right thoracic spine that's bulging out. So again, the convex side is down. I'm putting my elbow in the corner, got this little line between the wall and the floor, taking my left foot, bringing it up there first. Then I'm taking my right foot and sliding it underneath it. So I'm like this. I think you can see the relevant part of me, I think. I hope. I can move back. Notice how much of my leg is on the chair. It's almost at the knee. Wait, I can make this a little better. I can do something a little more reasonable here. By just
and you're on the forearm, you're not on the hand.
That's
or it doesn't matter.
Yes, important point. When you do the regular side plank, you're on the hand.
Yeah.
When you're doing this, you're on the forearm.
Right. Okay.
Now I move back. I think I can go back a little further. Now you should see a lot more of the chair and a lot more of me, which I like. So now, as I was saying, when you start out doing this for the first month or so, put a lot of leg up on the chair like this. See, I'm almost up to the knees, and it's not very tough. But after a month or so, move your elbow out. And as you come out, only your ankle will be on the chair. And when only your ankle is on the chair, it's a lot harder, believe you me. And that's what you need. And this, if you're complaining that the other exercises you're doing aren't powerful enough, aren't challenging the muscles that need to strengthen, this will do it.
Yeah. So Amy is asking, do you do the floating plank against the wall?
Yes.
You could, couldn't you?
Yes, I do. For a couple of reasons. First, you don't want the chair to move. Secondly, you don't want balance to be the issue. You want strengthening to be the issue. These muscles are countering other muscles, the overly strong ones, and their strong suit is that they can pull for long periods of time. It's endurance. It's not the dexterity and flexibility you need in the muscles that operate your hands. It's not the coordination you need for the muscles that operate most of your trunk.
So have you seen the same kind of sort of results for the thoracic curves as you've got for the lumbar curves, or is the lumbar curve still kind of the one that just works better in general?
Using the floating plank, we find that the thoracic spine does as well and sometimes better than the lumbar spine. I mean, it's really a version of the side plank, isn't it, on the other side, where you're just raising the legs up so that muscles higher up in your own body, more towards your head in your torso, are exercised. Now, the surprising thing is that in the cases we've seen in the studies so far, even though we're giving the injections way down in the lumbar spine, these people are getting better in their thoracic spine. One got better in the thoracic spine than they got in the lumbar spine. So what that says to me is that the muscles of the paraspinal region are all connected. They form what in medicine they call a syncytium. a whole lot of muscles that are, they're not really very distinct. And if you inject the botulinum toxin down low, it seems to affect muscles up higher.
Yeah.
As long as
Steve is asking, do you do this on both sides? I would imagine no, right?
You would do it on, yes, of course, but you would have a curve only to one side in the lumbar spine, and then it would be to the other side in the thoracic spine. So yes, you could do it on the left lumbar and the right thoracic easily, yes.
So you could do the side plank on your left side, and then you could do the floating plank on your right side.
That's exactly what we do. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Amy was asking, could you do this in the unfused portion of your spine if your thoracic is fused?
If you're thoracic, could you do the regular side plank in the lumbar spine? I don't see any reason that you couldn't. Now here, I haven't said a very important thing. In order to strengthen these muscles, to increase their capacity to endure, this is what they need. They must persist. They've got to be strong enough. I mean, your muscles down there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon do not hurt you because they're so good at continuing to pull. They're very strong, almost intransigent muscles. And to counter that, what you must do is the side plank or the floating side plank for as long as you can. Now, those of you that are just starting, for a few days, fool around with it, play with it, try it this way, try it that way. Don't go crazy. Do not kill self. But then after a few days, go into it in earnest. And don't set a clock that's going to go ding at 30 seconds and you quit. We're adults here. You do it for as long as you can. Is it going to start to be uncomfortable and ache a little? Yeah. Now, if your heart starts beating irregularly or you get dizzy, come down. Do not kill self. But at the same time, if your heart isn't doing that and you're not getting dizzy, stay up as long as you can. And you will strengthen those muscles and you will straighten your curve.
So what I'm hearing is that because obviously you set the time as 3 months, this is really the time when you are expecting obviously some proper results, right? After 3 months, if you do this, because people always ask how, when am I going to see a change?
Yeah. Well, if you're just doing the yoga, I usually wait 5 months because you only get 2.5% to 5% better a month. With the botulinum toxin, you seem to be getting 15% better in a month. I mean, that's what it looks like. In 3 weeks, you're getting 15% better, more or less. Now, Terry asks a very good question. Terry Morgan, do you keep both feet together the whole time? Yes. I'm glad you picked that up and allowed me to say it because it's important. You don't have one foot off to the side of the other. You have one foot stacked right on top of the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did it.
Shelina is asking about what about the hump pain?
The hump pain. Well, that usually dissipates. If you're just doing the yoga, it dissipates within a month or 2 or 3. If you're doing the botulinum toxin, it seems to dissipate like within about 10 days. For clarification, the weak side is down with the plank, yes. And that's always the convex side, the side that looks like a lens. The concave side looks like a cave.
Yeah. Right. So there's Charlotte Stone back again. Adolescents are usually not so compliant when asked to do daily therapeutic exercise. Oh, really? How has compliance been in your patients?
Yeah, well, the ones that get better are the ones that comply. I mean, we do. I had a woman come from Japan, an 11-year-old. She brought her, and her whole family came with her. And they came just to see me. They were going back that evening. And we spent an hour and we talked and we discussed and we muted and we debated and we irrigated the field. We did everything we could do. And this little girl, a lovely, sweet, charming, smart little girl, she stayed up in the pose about 10 seconds. And she was a normal little girl. She could have stayed 30 seconds. She was just, that's it. I'm not doing this any longer. And this little girl eventually had surgery because I cannot but believe, I wasn't there in Tokyo, she didn't do it.
It doesn't work if you don't do it, basically.
You don't do it. It's not in right. It's like putting a book underneath your pillow. You didn't learn much that night.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, we're getting lots of questions about which side, right? And I do have we had this conversation obviously a few years back, so you might want to look back at that video where we are really going through it step by step. And I actually have one video with where you see the curve with a t-shirt, and hopefully that helps you visualize, because I know it's always a little bit confusing which one is the.
It's very confusing. It is. Well, let me say a couple of things. They always name a curve by its convex side. That's the medical convention worldwide, as far as I know. So that's the side. If they say levoscoliosis, you're going down on the left side. Now, there's more of a question. Is it levoscoliosis of the lumbar spine or levoscoliosis of the thoracic spine? Rarely of the cervical spine. We don't treat the cervical spine. I think it's a very difficult thing. I've heard of chiropractors who claim they can cure it, and maybe they can, but we have not approached that. But if it's the thoracic spine, then you're going to do the floating side plank, levoscoliosis, left side. It's a lumbar spine, levoscoliosis of the lumbar side, you're going to do the regular plank on the left side. What is the cost for people over 18 for this fascinating treatment? Well, it depends on how much you weigh. The botulinum toxin is expensive. The children, in order to get past the FDA and the IRB and different people I had to go through to get this approved, I said, I'm only giving 100 units to children, or 3 units per kilogram. And that would mean they'd have to weigh 33 kilograms to get 100 units. And that's not very much for a 14-year-old. And so they all get 100 so far. I would go up on that if the people say you weighed 150 pounds. I would say 3 units per kilo. In that case, it would be about 60 kilos. Then it would be about 180 units that you'd get. So it would cost more. It's not, the botulinum toxin is not cheap. It's because it's used cosmetically, and it can be expensive.
So is it the same sort of cost than if you go for, I mean, I've never had a Botox.
Yeah, it's the same. And the government will pay for it for certain extreme conditions like cerebral palsy or after a stroke or multiple sclerosis. They'll pay for it. For this, I once got Medicare to pay for about 3 months. And then for some reason, they magically reversed and didn't pay anymore.
Right.
And I had to write a 7-page letter. And I mean, it was the 3rd degree. It was like being in Algariba, it was not fun to do that. But I did it, and I just despaired of doing it again. So the insurance doesn't pay. If you have one of these health savings plans where you work, that will pay for it. But otherwise, you have to pay it yourself. It's not cheap. It can be up to $1,000 or even a little more. It really can. That's the truth. I mean, if I were to weigh going through life with scoliosis or having surgery on the one hand and spending $1,000 on the other, I know what I would do. But that's something. And we, I'm sounding like a used car salesman. We would accept some when you start, and then we would, you could pay gradually thereafter. We're not out to.
So for adults, they only pay for the injection, not the X-ray and not the EOS.
No, if they're not in the study, they have to pay for everything. But they're not. It's the government. The government. But if they have Medicare or some normal insurance, that will pay for the X-rays.
Yeah,
it will pay something towards my visit. The yoga, we don't charge for that. We just do it. And those are the only parts. And then the botulinum toxin. So it's not going to break the bank, but it's not nothing for the botulinum toxin. I don't get the money.
So 14 to 18, for them, it's free.
Yeah, for them, everything is free. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. Okay, thank you so much. And sorry, there's lots and lots more questions, of course, as always. But we could talk for hours and hours.
We're going to quit, but if you send me the questions, I will do my best to answer them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Youth wants to know.
Yes. And you've kindly given us your email address already, and obviously I will make sure to put all the links in the description below as well. But yeah, thank you so much, Loren, for this update. Always, I'm going to be excited to hear about the results, of course, of the study.
You and me both did. Now, I will send you also, if anybody's interested, I'll send you the URLs for the 3 studies we've published. And I'll give you another URL for someone who wants to make a regular appointment too. You know, you can talk to the office manager and get an appointment. So you have all this stuff. Christine, what a pleasure. You're so, in addition to being erudite up on the subject and very enthusiastic, you're charming.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I can see there's over 50 people here live, which is amazing, of course. And yeah, you can go back to it. It's going to be on YouTube. So if you missed parts of it, feel free to go back to the beginning, watch it again. Stay on, Loren, for a moment. I'm just going to say goodbye to everyone. So we are having a little bit of a break from back chat as I'm going on holiday. I'm going to Germany to see my family. So we've got a couple of weeks off, but then I'll be back with some fabulous guests as well. So thank you so much, everyone, and we'll speak to you soon.